Erev Tov, everyone. Parsha Vayera, that contains 7 of the 10 makot that befell the Egyptians, and that leads to the freedom of the Jewish people from Egypt. The whole concept of the makot is difficult for us to understand. And why did we need 10 makot? The idea that the Meforshim all discuss is that the makot were meant to impress not only upon the Mitzrim, but upon Klal Yisrael as well, the power and the strength of Shomayim and its control of events. And the method by which this was used fitted perfectly for Egyptian society. Gemara teaches us that Mitzrayim was the center of Kshofim, Kishuf. What is Kishuf? We really don't know, but it's a supernatural, it's a belief that there are powers that human beings can employ to accomplish supernatural events and effects. The Rambam holds, for instance, in his consistent view of rationality in the world, that Kishuf doesn't exist. And he says it's all achizas einayim. Achizas einayim is a type of performance that you distract the person. It's how magicians, professional magic shows work, that their hands are quicker than your eyes, and they have distracted you. So it makes it look like they're doing miraculous things, when in reality it is all only your inability to figure it out that makes it magical. So the Rambam says that that was the idea of the Egyptians always. It was a place of Kishuf. And the Rambam explains, therefore, that the difference between, we find that the first makkah was dam, right? It took water and it turned into blood. So in the Torah, it says that the Khartoumim, the magicians of Paro, also were able to do it. They took water and they turned it into blood. And the same thing was with the Svardim, the frogs. So the Rambam says the difference was that they were doing it b'achizas einayim. They really weren't doing it. They made it look like they were going into blood. Like it looks like he's taking the rabbit out of the hat. And Moshe Rabbeinu is real. He threw his staff down and it turned into a snake. That was real by Moshe. When the Khartoumim did it, it was part of the act. However, Rashi and the Ramban, and I would say most of the traditional Meforshim, don't agree with the Rambam in this. And they hold that Kishufim really exist. There are powers in the world. And that those powers are available even to people who are not necessarily nice people. And they can employ them. And therefore, they have to be recognized as such. There's a famous legend, it's quoted by many in their biographies of the Rambam. The Rambam said that there's no such thing as shadim in the world, even though the Gemara seems to think that there are shadim. The shadim are disembodied spirits that somehow affect us in the world. The Rambam said they don't exist. So the legend is only just the typical Jewish way of looking at a problem. The legend is that the Shadim had a convention, as they often do. And they said, if we allow the Rambam to go unchecked, nobody will believe in us. And if nobody believes in us, then we have lost our powers to influence people. So we have to therefore make a demonstration that it's obvious that we do exist, and even the Rambam will give in, so to speak, and recognize us. So the legend goes that the Shadim went to the house of the Rambam and they organized a tornado. And boom, everything is going in there, right? So the Rambam said to him, Pa, you see there are Shadim, look at what's happening here. And the Rambam is alleged to have answered, my son, there are no Shadim. But in heaven, they're testing me to see if I really believe that there are no Shadim. So the Rambam is an extremist in this matter. Yet when it comes to the Eser Makos, the Rambam has no doubt that they occurred. And he says that that was the difference between the actions of the Khartoumim and the actions of Moshe. Is that Moshe's Makos were real. Water did turn into blood. Frogs did appear. The snake became a staff. Whereas the Khartoumim, it was Chizas Einayim, it was all a fake. But the Rambam goes even further. And he says, the question that underlies all of this is, what is Paro thinking here? I mean, after 5, 6, 7 Makkahs, his advisors say, Etzba Elohimi, Aterem Teda Ki Obdo Mitzrayim. Well, you don't understand that we're lost here. We'll send them out. Get rid of them. And Paro doesn't budge. So the Torah says that Hiksho Hashem Eslev Paro. The Rebbeinu Shalom hardened his heart. The Rambam Shita, he says it many times, that Rishoyim, there's a line that they cross. Once they cross that line, they can't even do tshuva. Then no matter what happens to them, they'll never change their mind. They'll wait to the end. We see that there are examples of that, and certainly in recent history. Can't change a person's mind, no matter what happens to them. But the Rambam says that Paro thought the whole thing was a good show. He thought that Moshe was the master magician. And because he's aware of the Khartoumim, he's aware of all the acts that are going on. Paro himself pretends. The Medrash says that when Moshe used to go meet him ala Yaor, because Paro said that he's a god, so a god doesn't have to, has no human needs. But he wasn't a god, he was a human being. And his body had to relieve itself. But Paro puts on the show that it doesn't happen. So to Paro, this is all theater. It's all drama. And he says, this guy is terrific. Look what he can do. But the Paro, it's all achizas einayim. It's just a form of magic that's greater than his magicians can perform. So Moshe is a great performer. He's a great performer. I don't have to let the Jewish people out because of the fact that, he's got the best magic show in the world. And Paro is convinced all the time that he somehow can outweigh Moshe. There's a limit to Moshe's bag of tricks. And therefore, that's his stubbornness. His stubbornness is that he's convinced that sooner or later Moshe is going to come up empty-handed. What else is he going to do? We find that Moshe said to Paro, he's poyer olai. When do you want me to take away this market? Give me a time. I'll show you. Not only I can take it away, I can take it away at 11:48 p.m. So the Rambam says that to Paro, that was only a further confirmation that this is all theater. And this is part of the act. And the Forshim say that that's why Moshe said, Heim lo yaminu li. Paro won't believe me, the Jewish people won't believe me, because they all know that this is only an act. And the Moshe gives him three miracles: the snake and the tsaras and the dam, none of which do anything. Because again, the climate, the psychological climate is that this is all theater. It's all an act. And nothing's going to happen here. It's only Makas Bechoros, that's an act that nobody has ever been able to accomplish. Kill all the firstborn. You destroy the Egyptian people. So then Paro, but you see that there, Paro wavers, but he doesn't give in because Paro is going to pursue him again. Because Paro, when he thought it over, he said, wow, that's the best trick of all. How did he do that? And therefore he feels, otherwise it's a suicide mission. Where's he going? But he's convinced that Moshe is really powerless in these matters, but that he has only put up this tremendous front that people believe in it, but that it's not real, and therefore he doesn't have to give in. So Chazal say from here, the rule that miracles never convince people permanently to do anything. We see by Eliyahu Hanavi, they all say Hashem hu Elokim. Tomorrow they're all over the Avodah Zarah again. We see throughout history, miracle comes, none, because that isn't how you do it. Therefore, the Rambam says that the only way is Luman Das, through the intellect. Others say through faith. But they all agree that miracles at best are temporary. And that therefore, the Torah wanted to emphasize that to us. So when it told us the story of the Eser Makos, so that we should be impressed that even though the Makos were real, and even though Paro has to give in, it's not permanent. Doesn't really change people's minds. It didn't change the minds of the Jewish people who are willing to make an ego. Doesn't change the minds in the non-Jewish world. So that can be applied in our time as well, as to how we look at things, and why therefore people are so ironclad in their false beliefs, and that almost nothing that real that happens really has the power to change them. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash, Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Yisrael, לפיכך חירו להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.